Welcome to the Cybersecurity Whisperer for the week of October 20th. Wow, we are getting close to the end of the year. We're already almost all the way through Cybersecurity Awareness Month. I hope you're enjoying the tips out on LinkedIn and happy to share those with friends and family. Just and all in part of the theme of this year's Cybersecurity Awareness Month, which is to secure our world. Jumping right into some news headlines from this week. I don't know how many of you are subject to the NYDFS or the New York Department of Financial Services cyber regulations. Certainly, if you have any sort of financial transactions that your company is a part of, where you're profiting from in the state of New York, you have to follow it. And those regulators this week published some AI safety guidance, of course, all about artificial intelligence. This really is to help organizations identify and mitigate cybersecurity threats related to AI. These aren't new requirements, but they're responding to a set of questions that they continue to get on how regulated financial institutions can mitigate AI risks. And of course, we know that AI really can enhance threat detection and incident response strategies, but of course, it creates new opportunities for the criminals to commit crimes at greater scale and speed. And so, this guidance calls out AI-specific risk around social engineering, theft of non-public information, and increased vulnerabilities due to supply chain dependencies. It talks about these enhanced cyber attacks, the potency, the scale, and the speed at which AI amplifies. And so, again, because AI can quickly scan and digest information, threat actors can use AI to, really exploit these vulnerabilities in a much quicker time, a much faster rate. And so once inside the systems, of course, they can deploy AI to help conduct reconnaissance, to best determine how to deploy malware and access and exfiltrate data. And it can also accelerate the development of new malware variants and change ransomware to enable it to bypass defensive security controls. And so you think about that orgs have to maintain non-public information in large quantities and deploy AI because they want to be able to use that data and make good decisions, quick decisions. But that, of course, then makes them a bigger target. And it's a greater incentive to target those entities in an attempt to extract non-public information for financial gain or other malicious purposes. You've also got AI login solutions that could store your biometric data, and the theft of that could then give hackers access to internal data, and they can use this to generate very realistic deepfakes. And so the agency is really not saying anything new in terms of, they're just saying implement layers, which you should have been doing for years and years and years. So if one control fails, others can then mitigate the impact of the attack. And of course, have monitoring processes to detect these vulnerabilities and strong data management practices. And again, third-party vendor management, access controls, and cybersecurity training must, feature prominently on your company's security agenda. Moving on to some Android-specific news, that there's a trick mode Trojan variant that targets your device unlock codes. And so this is a variant of an Android baking Trojan called TrickMo, and it's tricking victims into providing their unlock code to their phone so that the bad guys can sustain operations. And this was really, identified in September, that it's distributed through a dropper disguised as the Google Chrome browser. And so after you install this, what you think is a Google Chrome browser, it displays a warning message that says, hey, you need to update Google Play. And when you do, it installs an app called Google Services, and it looks like it's a legitimate instance of Google Play Services. And so it dismisses key guards and auto accepts permissions, so it enables it to really integrate seamlessly into your Android device's operations, which allows TrickMo to conduct financial fraud and extremely difficult to detect and remove it. It can intercept one-time passwords, screen recording, data exfiltration, and credential theft through fake displays. So what it does is it can steal your device unlock, pin, or pattern. On Android, you can also have a pattern. And what it does is it presents this whole full screen, looks like you're in kiosk mode, a user interface, and it mimics your actual unlock screen. And when you enter your unlock pattern or your pin, it transmits that to, along with your Android's unique identifier, to a PHP script that sends it to the bad guys. Earlier this year, you may have remembered when the SEC, the United States Security Exchange Commission, their Twitter account was hijacked. And you're thinking, no big deal, government social media. But an Alabama man, a 25-year-old Alabama man, was arrested and charged with hacking into this Twitter account earlier this year and making fake regulatory posts that artificially inflated the price of Bitcoin by more than $1,000 per coin. His name's Eric Council Jr., and he's a resident of Athens, Alabama. He was arrested this week and charged with aggravated identity theft and access device fraud. And so it's very interesting. So Council and some other unnamed parties, they use SIM swapping to steal the identity of a third-party individual that had access to the SEC's Twitter account. And they only maintained control of the account for a short time, but in that time, they were able to publish a post imitating the SEC chair, Gary Gensler, announcing that the listing of Bitcoin on the Registered National Securities Exchange had been approved. And while they did eventually approve the listing, the premature posting caused considerable market disruption, sending the price up by $1,000 per Bitcoin before it fell $2,000 a coin when the announcement was revealed to be fake. And we knew it was around SIM swapping. Here are the details. So the co-conspirators, they used illegal access to a phone to manipulate financial markets. They created on their own printer, they created a fake ID, took it into an AT&T store on January 9th of this year, posing as an FBI agent who broke his phone, needed a new SIM card. They got that. Then they visited another AT&T store and used it to reassign the phone number to his device, giving him control over the individual's phone and the access codes. And then he passed those codes to his co-conspirator who posted the fake tweet. And the Eric Council Jr., that he later conducted a series of incriminating internet searches, again, not using, very inexperienced. He didn't use any privacy mode or anything. So when they did warrants, they were able to see his search. He searched for things like SEC Gov hack, Telegram, SIM swap. How can I know for sure if I'm being investigated by the FBI? What are the signs that you're under investigation by law enforcement, even if they've not been contacted by them? So that made it a little, evident on him. When we look at the federal rules and regulations around social media use, they're strongly encouraging their agencies to use multi-factor, but there's no standard or requirements for them to do so. A tech CEO was charged with fraud over security and reliability this week, and the Justice Department, they indicted a chief executive of a data center company over allegedly fake data center audit used to win business with the U.S. SEC. Here we go again. Deepak Jain is the chief executive of an unnamed information technology services company operating in Beltsville, Maryland, and he created an entity called Uptime Council, which falsely certifies the data center he provided to the SEC with a Tier 4 rating, the highest available for assessing availability, redundancy, reliability, and security. And the SEC said it experienced problems with cooling, power, and security at his data center from 2012 to 2018. And these were the areas that the certification letters allegedly drafted on behalf of Uptime Council granted the Tier 4 certification to his company. And they required at least Tier 3 to contract with them. The SEC paid his company over $10 million over the course of its partnership. And federal contracts from the SEC over that time period, and totaling the amount that were awarded to ANET, which is his company specializing in data center services. He is charged with 6 counts of major fraud against the U.S. and 1 count of making false statements. There's no evidence that any data was lost or compromised in any way. But again, the challenges were, he created this fraudulent agency, and he did not have a 4-tier data center. It's interesting. We say many times Microsoft is not, and I don't think will ever be, a security company. They're trying to change that image, but I just don't think it's going to happen. And this week they confirmed partial loss of security log data on multiple platforms. They said they've mitigated an issue that led to the partial loss of more than 2 weeks of security logs during the month of September. The company previously notified customers that some logs were lost due to a bug in their internal monitoring agents, but the security logs provide critical information to Microsoft customers and flag evidence of potentially malicious attacks. They lost data on multiple platforms, including Microsoft Entra, Sentinel, Purview, and Defender for Cloud. And they mitigated the issue by rolling back a service change. But they said, look, it wasn't related to a security issue or a compromise, but it did result in partially incomplete log data. And the challenge is there are customers that have lost data and haven't even been notified by the company. And this is only after Microsoft in October of last year offered up free support for logs. They were charging you even to get your own logs from their systems for paying to use their service. And now they can't even keep those logs up. I realize they're a huge company, they're a huge target, but they were charging you, now they've gone to free, and then they're losing the logs to system changes. So be on the lookout for that if you're a Microsoft customer. And finally, Star Health Insurance is a company that had a breach some time back, and this week it came out just when it seemed like the dust was starting to settle on their overall breach. claims came out that from the hacker that's saying the Armajit Kilja, the CISO of Star Health and Allied Insurance agency, stole sensitive customer data for $150,000. The hacker, known as Zinzin, he further accused Kunhunja of later attempting to change the deal, suggesting that the company's senior management demanded more money for ongoing backdoor access. Like, was the whole company in on this and you were trying to profit from it? This is what he wrote on his website. And the leak is sponsored by Star Health and Allied Insurance Company, who sold this data directly to me. That's what the bad guy wrote. The breach exposed over 7 terabytes of sensitive customer information, including highly personal information: full name, PANs, mobile PAN, which is credit card, mobile numbers, email addresses, dates of birth, residential addresses, pre-existing medical condition, policy numbers, height, weight, all kind of stuff. And the hackers' revelations, they've gone viral on social media with a post by a user named Didi Das, who shared an alleged email between the CISO and the hacker, and that he brokered the sale of this data, again, for a price of $150,000. So again, we talk about insider risk, insider threat. If this is true, it's really gonna, it points to a deep-rooted vulnerability in the company's internal data governance. So again, goes to insider risk and insider threat. If you're not creating a program for that, you should be. Hope you have a great week as you end Security Awareness Month, and we'll catch you back soon. Thanks.